Good morning, Miramar, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tamara G. As always, you can check us out on all of our social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City of Miramar. And I'm very happy to have with us today author, and I'm going to get her name right, Agailia Baker. She is here to talk about her new book. It is called If Cancer is a Gift, Can I Return It? I'm sure many people want to do that. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But some of your background, Agalia, is that you were a registered nurse for more than 40 years. So I know you have seen your fair share of patients.
Yes, and in addition to being a registered nurse, I became a nurse practitioner, and I was in women's health of all things. I was screening women for breast cancer and setting up for mammograms and doing the follow-up afterwards. And it really gave me a lot of insight into the breast cancer, which I had only peripherally treated and helped in the past.
Okay. And so with that, I can already tell you were a great nurse because you have that calming, soothing voice and you're able to possibly get people to do what they don't want to do, but because you're their nurse, you're telling them what's best for them. But how did you go into that field? Because, I really do believe nursing, teaching, police officers, those are fields that you have to be led to do that. You can't just take that because it's a job.
Absolutely. I decided to become a nurse when I was 16. And I did start college early in life. I was 16,
Mhm.
and it just chose me. I didn't choose nursing. In fact, I tried to get out of it, and I couldn't. Every time I tried, something would happen, and I couldn't get out of it. So it was my calling. So
That's awesome. And so where did you do a lot of your nursing? Was it in the South? Because I think you live in the South now, correct?
yes, I do. It
Okay.
has been in this area. Most of my work has been in critical care. Tickers were my first love in
Oh,
life.
wow. Wow.
And
Okay.
then after after about 25 years in critical care, I needed a change, so I tried some other forms of nursing, and then I decided I needed to go a little further, so I became a nurse practitioner, and then what opened up for me was women's health, which I totally loved,
Yeah.
totally loved. I love the age group. I love talking with women, and well, my age group was from 12 to 65.
And as the nurse practitioner, I mean, well, truly, you're like one step away from being, the doctor, because I've seen many nurse practitioners as well. They were able to, prescribe me the medicine or get the medicine for me, whatever it was that I needed. Um, and so with that, I'm sure came another set of, I don't want to say issues, but things that you do differently from being a nurse, because now you're on both sides of it.
Right, absolutely.
Mhm.
There was a lot of responsibility, and that was um, there's a lot of responsibility, but there also is a lot of less time, and that I realized that I had to do things a lot faster and listen a lot less, really empathize less.
You had to be the boss now. Is that what that was?
Yes, yes, you gotta, so much time, and you've got to shuffle through, and that part I didn't care for.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
I ended up in a trouble an awful a lot.
Something tells me you don't follow directions that well, Gail.
No, rules are
You're
made
a
to be
maverick.
broken when needed.
Exactly, you're a maverick. Okay, so let's talk about the book because this right here I thought was amazing, that you have come up with this book that says if cancer is a gift, can I return it?
Mhm.
Because I have heard people say that. I've heard them say, "Oh, this was a gift to me." But why do you think people have said that at first, and why do you think they do want to return it?
Well, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was devastated. I didn't even have it on my radar. I thought I was going to, you know, die of old age or a bus hit me or something, not anything like cancer. And, maybe that's a little bit of an arrogant thought to think that, it would miss me, but I thought a lot of other things would hit me. So when it did, it really shook me to the core.
Mhm.
Whenever whenever anyone is told that they have cancer, it's like receiving, it feels like a death threat. And when you're threatened, your brain just goes right into what it's programmed to do, what it's designed to do, survival mode or lizard brain.
Mhm.
Logical thought goes flying out the window, and fear and the instinct for survival takes over. So it changes everything that you thought of yourself, your life, your future, your hopes. Here you're faced with your mortality.
Mhm.
And um, it took quite a bit of thought about that. And I'd heard people about saying, oh, it's a gift. It's supposed to make you look at your life and say, oh, here's where I went wrong. Well, if I had to get cancer because I was so messed up that this is what it took to straighten me out, well, that is some gift because I must be flawed to the core.
You know what? I think, and you're right. A lot of people feel like that. They feel like, it's some type of curse or you did something to deserve it.
Yeah.
I want to ask this question. How did you find that you had cancer? Because obviously, as a nurse, I hope that you were doing your checkups and doing your yearly mammograms and things like that. But how did you find out that you had cancer?
It was from one mammogram to the next, one annual normal screening mammogram to the next. In 1 year's time, it had grown to in a very advanced stage, and well, I'm not stage, aggressiveness. We'll put it that way. So it was very close to being worse than what it turned out to be. Since I did get it checked so early, I had a better prognosis and outcome.
Wow. Okay. So you're right. Immediately when you hear this, it is fight or flight, right? So
Right.
what were you thinking? Because the subtext of the book is from grief to healing. Did you, what were your first thoughts when you were diagnosed with cancer?
My first thought was, this can't be happening to me. Where did I go so wrong to deserve this? And what is going to happen to me?
Mhm.
And
So that's is that the grief part, or does the grief come later when you, I don't know, because I've never been diagnosed, and I would think that that's heartbreaking to know that you, like you said, you've done everything you're supposed to do. You've gone to your mammogram once a year. You have, done your self checks, and within a year, things
mhm,
have changed.
right. Well, when I was going through this, and the hardest part for me was between the words of, I'm sorry, it's cancer, and taking that first actionable step, which was for me, was showing up for my initial and unilateral mastectomy. Because that's what my lizard brain was wanting me to do, is to hurry up and start fighting for it. But I was being tortured by my own brain, my own imagination, because I've got a pretty vivid imagination, and it was not letting me go. Just why was this happening to me? What did I do so wrong? And during this time, no one ever mentioned any help or any support system, and I suffered. I truly suffered. So I wished I'd had a how-to book, how to survive this, how to understand the crazy brain that I was having, all of these fears, all of these thoughts. And I looked for things out there, and there was the stuff like, oh, well, I ran a marathon while I was taking chemo. Well, I felt like I ran a marathon if I made it to the toilet in time.
Right.
And nothing worked. Nothing helped me understand until my nursing kicked in well after the fact. And I realized I was grieving the loss. I was grieving the loss of the future I thought I had set for me. I was grieving the loss of my breasts, the loss of my career, because I ended up with so much inflammation. I ended up having to retire early. I wasn't ready to give all that up. So that's where everything started falling into place and it made sense. So I thought maybe if I could put it into a framework of grief and all the stages of grief and actually look at grief a little differently. It's
Okay.
not necessarily something you got to shove down, bully yourself through. It's actually healing in itself if you just understand what's going on and allow the process.
And I think too, this book that you obviously have written for people who are going through this, not just breast cancer, but I'm sure every type of cancer. If cancer is a gift, can I return it from grief to healing? You have a different take on it because of the background, because of the health background, and knowing the things that you should look for, and knowing the things you should do if your doctors tell you to do something. Follow
Right.
their directions. Do not become a WebMD doctor or a Google doctor and
Right.
decide you're gonna do
Right.
what you wanna do.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So that's dealing with the medicinal side of it. What about the personal side? What about the support that you need? You know, the things that you will need that maybe you didn't realize once you got the cancer diagnosis that you would need these things. Did you ever get a handicap sticker? Did you ever, things like that that people just don't think about?
There is quite a bit of information out given to people whenever they do get breast cancer. So I took my book in a little bit different direction. Everything focuses on treatment and all the physical needs that you have and some of the superficial, needs, but nothing really hit the emotional devastation, emotional impact. So I wrote this from the form of grief and what it does to you, what it does to your brain, why this is happening. And then I give personal blurbs, I call them, insight into what I experienced, little snippets of my experience. So, which I can be pretty open and pretty raw so they can see all the mistakes that I made and feel better about themselves if they make the same.
And when you say that what your brain is thinking, I think people also don't take into account not only are you on some very powerful meds that may be affecting how you think, how you act, how you
Right.
treat others, but also those feelings that you mentioned to the emotional state. So from the grieving to the healing, how do people get to that state when they are in the once you're being told you have cancer, you really are fighting for your life now. Nobody wants to give up, you know?
Right. Lizard brain takes over, floods the body with hormones to enable you to either fight or run or freeze. You realize that you can't run away from cancer because it comes right along with you inside your body. And so you have to fight. So you really want to start something. But with the grief process, you hit the denial because of, your life has suddenly changed overnight. Or, well, within a few words, and everything is different. Then you go through a phase of, a little bit of instantaneous anger, like, who can I hit to make this go away? Do I need to be mad at God? Do I need to be mad at myself for being so stupid to believe that, people when they said these chemicals are safe and maybe they weren't, who do I need to fight? Who
Mhm,
do I need to be angry with? Then bargaining hits the brain. And bargaining is not a bad thing. It's what our brain does to try to get us to mitigate the consequences, to make things a little better, to soften the blow. That's
mhm,
like, okay, if I do this, maybe that won't happen. Maybe if I take this, I won't have so many bad side effects from the chemo. Well, that is one of the hardest places, is because right off the bat, you're hit with a lot of decisions. What kind of treatment you want? What facility do you want to go to? Do you want one breast taken off? Do you want both breasts taken off? What kind of reconstruction do you want? Do you want any reconstruction?
right.
You're hit with massive amount of things to try to figure out. Well, this is what your brain is trying to do. And then after you have gone through these phases and you're still tired as you can be, depression usually comes in. And for me, it was a couple years out from the treatment. Is because I got to a point where, the treatment's over with. I'm supposed to be getting back to my life, but
Hmm.
I still felt like crap. And, I thought, is this what my life is going to be like from now on? And depression hits.
Wow.
And, when you go for support, they say, "Well, your cancer's over with,
Right.
you should move on." Well, great. When are you gonna stop worrying about the fact that it can come back at any point?
Right. But I think that's always going to be in the back of your mind, right? Because, and again, you you have the gift and the curse. If those folks are just tuning in, we are speaking to Agailia Baker. She is a retired nurse of over 40 years, also nurse practitioner before she retired, was hit with the diagnosis of cancer, fought her way back, and has written a book called If Cancer is a Gift, Can I Return It? From Grief to Healing. You can find it everywhere, but you can also, definitely Amazon. And you had the double whammy, Agalia, because as a medical person and having that background, you know what can happen. You know
Right.
what the consequences can be. And when people tell you, hey, get over it, or the cancer's gone now, and are you going to worry about it coming back? You probably have seen that happen in your practice, that it did come back to some people.
Over. And some of the friends that I have made since, finding my cancer and in treatment,
Mhm.
uh, even recently has, found that it had metastasized,
Right.
and
And
severe
so
devastation.
is that always in the back of your mind? Always? Or do you have you moved past that?
Well, I don't know that you ever completely move past that.
Mhm.
If it happened once, it can happen again. But do I, dread it every day? No. I try to focus on today and what is going good about today, or what I need to work on that's going so bad about today
Mhm.
that I put that off. But yes, it is always in the back of my mind. I
Okay.
chose to have a bilateral mastectomy because I couldn't tolerate the thought of having another mammogram.
Right. So you had both breasts removed.
I did have both breasts removed. I
Okay.
had reconstruction that did not turn out well, and then I had the implants removed.
Okay. And so, with you saying that in the back of your mind, when you said, you live one day at a time, and you face today, what you can face today, and work on that, whether it's good or bad. Isn't that like a metaphor for every day of life, regardless of whether you have a cancer diagnosis or not? Because, there's a lot of things that you are not in control of. And so
Right.
you should live every day to the fullest.
And, I do bring that point in the book, but that's one of the hardest things for us to do in daily life because we're always looking back, seeing what we did, what did we do wrong, or what could we have done better, or let's learn from the past. Or we're looking ahead. Okay, what do we got to get done for tomorrow? What is tomorrow going to look like? I got to plan for the future. I got to save for the future. I got to. It's very rare that we actually stop and notice what's going on. We notice that in this moment, we're safe. In this moment, there is no cancer. In this moment, we're okay.
Wow, that is amazing. And so in writing this book, was this something that you wanted to do? Uh,
No,
the answer to that was a quick no. So who was it that prompted you, or were you called or led to do it once you went through your journey?
just like being a nurse, I didn't have a choice. I kicked and snot trying not to do this, but it just compelled me. I could not write this. I just had to do it. I couldn't sleep. I had to get up and write, and then I just kept going, and then it finally got done. I did have to live it. It took me a while. It was not an easy process.
Mm.
To do this, I had to learn in the school of hard knocks, and then I was able to write about it. In fact, I was writing the last chapter before it ever came to me.
Really? So you started from the end and went back.
Well, uh, to a certain extent, yes, to a certain
Okay.
extent.
Okay. And so how has the book been received from people who, have read it, have lived it? I am sure that, it should be required reading for support groups. No, seriously, because people go through, and that's another question. I'll get to that one in just a minute, because a lot of people don't tell people what they're going through. So we would never
Right,
have known that you had breast cancer. I mean, not you in particular, but other people, because they don't want to talk about it. They think it's some type of something to be ashamed of. A lot
right,
of people, we don't even know that you've been going through this.
right. Uh, when I wrote this book, I really, you were talking about the support groups and it being out there. I want the medical society to wake up to realize that the mental and emotional needs of a person need to be addressed right right out the starting gate, right along with the treatments, with the mastectomies, the surgeries, or whatever options with chemo, radiation, whatever is necessary. That I want to impress upon them that if it's not addressed, there is the potential for lifelong catastrophic damage. Evidence of which most people will never see, but
Mhm.
it's there inside, and
It's not
that's
physical. It's not physical. It's mental.
not physical. Mm-mm. It's
Okay.
lodged right in the heart.
Okay. And again, if people aren't open, or if they don't want to talk about it, um, you have to respect that as well, right?
Right. I wasn't one to really want to talk about it, and I had a friend that got breast cancer, and she absolutely refused to, to even discuss it. Um, I've never been to a support group myself,
Mhm.
but I do believe that there is a need for education, need for
Mhm. Mhm.
on all fields. And there's a part of my book in the back section. It is all of the unfortunate things that people say.
Okay.
Oh, you don't look sick. Or one of my favorites was, well, cancer is just anger turned inward. Do you want to see it turned outward here?
So you got cancer because you were bad on the inside and not,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
right. I
yeah.
gave myself cancer because I was too nice.
You know what? And again, these are people who have absolutely no medical background
Right.
at all telling you these things. But and maybe it's because they don't know what to say. So maybe it's
They
best if you
don't.
don't say anything.
That's I even have a little, section, that of what to say,
Hmm.
are things that are helpful, but I, I realized that there was a lot of damage being done on a lot of relationships, with things that are unfortunately,
Hmm.
put out there.
So
So
would you encourage people to talk about it? I And again, not really sure why you wouldn't, but I would think you would have to, because and share it with, your mate, with your friends, with coworkers. You'd have to, because there are things happening in your life. You can't just keep saying taking off work because I have a cold, or you know what I'm saying, or
right.
I'm in bed sick because of the chemo, or I got to leave work. I'm missing this meeting because of whatever reason. I mean, you almost have to tell people that you have it, which is kind of a way to talk about it.
True. Some people need a lot of outside support, and they may go on social media.
Mm.
And there's no one way that's better than others, whether you talk about it or whether you don't. It all depends on the person. I was a more of a private person, and I every time I had to tell somebody, which I operated 5 different county clinics. So I had a lot of personnel that needed to know what I was going through. And every time I told somebody, the look in their eyes was just like, oh, how awful that is. It just drove a nail right through my heart again about how terrible it is to have cancer.
Mhm.
and it was hard. Now, some people do put it out on social media, and they get a lot of support. You get a flooding support, but you have to realize that some people can't handle your news, and they will distance themselves due to their own issues, not yours.
Mhm.
It hurts, but it happens. So you have to be prepared for that. You're going to alienate some people if they can't handle you having cancer.
Right. And speaking of that gift again, after everything that you've been through, you look great. You really do. You've gotten past the critical point. Um, do you consider it a gift that you got it?
I give myself that credit. Cancer doesn't get the credit for my transformation, for my life. I chose to get better rather than get bitter, not cancer. It didn't do that for me. Cancer is a catalyst. It started the ball rolling, and I stepped up and I chose what it would do to me and how I choose to live my life going forth. So cancer's not my gift. I am my gift. And I also received gifts from the people that loved me, that helped me, took care of me, um, just in other ways.
That is, I love it. That is amazing. If cancer is a gift, can I return it from grief to healing? And like you said, cancer was the catalyst for you to make changes, do some things differently, um, focus on your health, focus on you. Because I'm sure as a nurse practitioner, and again with 40 years of experience in nursing, I can just tell, because I know you're from the South too, you put a lot of people ahead of you.
Right,
And again, that's the caring nature of nursing. That's what you're supposed to do. So it wasn't like you were doing anything wrong, but it became a time where you needed to take care of yourself.
right.
Wow. So where can people find the book? Again, if cancer is a gift, can I return it from grief to healing? Of course, the author is Agailia Baker. Tell us where people can find it.
Well, it is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Also, my website, bcveteran.com, breast cancer veteran, bcveteran.com.
That is awesome. Listen, anybody who can write a book, anybody who can get it in Barnes and Noble and Amazon is doing something great for everybody else, because that is not an easy. I'm sure you never thought you were going to be an author either.
No, no.
You can tell
The
people,
most
oh,
reluctant offer ever.
yes, my book is on Amazon. My book is in Barnes and Noble, just the biggest book reseller, in the world. So congratulations on that, and we wish you much success with it. And maybe that is something that these support groups need to look at. You're writing from a personal view of someone who is a BC veteran, breast cancer veteran, as well as the medical view. You have both, and I think people would be wise to read the book and learn how to cope with that diagnosis and that gift that was given.
Thank you. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
Amazing. So, and thank you very much. Agalia Baker, If Cancer is a Gift, Can I Return It? From Grief to Healing is the new book. Please check it out again on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Thank you so much for being with us here on Good Morning Miramar. And until next time, I'm your host, Tamara G. See you.